So like I said, Impact Labs, we enable you to donate to causes you care about and track your impact with real world data. Um, I'll get into how we do that in a second, but let's talk about why that's important in the first place. As many of us realize, the future and present of philanthropy is data driven. Let's get started by talking about a trend that we're all aware of. Modern donors, especially high net worth donors, are used to making decisions that are based on clear metrics with a focus on ROI, and they expect their philanthropy to work the same way. As you can see here, the percentage of high net worth donors who expect to see how exactly their giving has impacted the causes they support has exploded generationally from 55% during the baby boomer generation to 87% today for millennials. Now, at the same time, over half of all high net worth donors don't know if their giving is having the impact they want. This situation is especially dire when you're looking at millennials, especially. So 75% of millennials say that they would stop giving if they are not told how their contributions are helping. And the flip side of that is clear as well. 73% of recurring donors continue to give when they understand the impact of their donations. So what we're seeing right now is this generational shift. The expectations of what constitutes impact data have advanced significantly. The modern generation expects a lot more, and nonprofits are really struggling to meet this need. It's not their fault. They're busy doing their job, right? Not every nonprofit has the skills, resources, or time to set up a data analysis operation. So there's kind of a diversion of what people are expecting and what they're receiving. That's where Impact Lab steps in. How do we get started on this in the first place? The first piece of our solution here is what we're basically calling our impact analysis engine. We're building the world's most advanced impact analysis engine. So far, we have around 324,000 domestic registered nonprofits in our database, where we're analyzing their programming and their financials based on their IRS 990 forms. In addition to that, we're forming exclusive data partnerships with many of these nonprofits, where they're reporting more detailed and more regular information to us. Now, we're taking all of this and we're creating a really exciting new impact analysis model that shifts the focus away from outdated metrics like overhead ratios and towards real impact metrics like specific outcomes being created. Our model defines four key metrics that help donors have more nuanced conversations about the kind of impact they want to create. The breadth of impact describes the reach that a nonprofit has, while depth of impact describes how acutely their work is felt. For example, a life-saving intervention would have a higher depth of impact versus a more temporary solution that might be more widespread, which would have lower depth but possibly higher breadth. Both of these types of solutions have their place. This gives us a completely new and more nuanced approach to impact analysis. Evidence also tells us how strongly data supports the impact these nonprofits are claiming. And timeline tells us whether the impact is going to be delivered in the short term, medium term, or long term horizons. Now, we take all of this data, we apply our model to it, and we create these really compelling reports and high quality editorial content to help donors understand where their money is going, who it's helping, and exactly what kind of impact is being created in the real world from their donations. Now, the way that we actually package this data is through impact funds. This is really cool. So our research tells us that issue-based philanthropy is becoming increasingly important to households. In the past, a clear majority of affluent households said that organizations drove their giving instead of issues. That's completely changed today. Practically the same proportion indicate that issues drive their giving versus organizations. It's around 44% each. Impact funds are curated collections of nonprofit programs that target specific causes from multiple angles. This is exciting because it allows us to design really powerful strategies that combine both short-term and long-term interventions, providing critical resources where they're needed today, and also building towards a more sustainable future tomorrow. Now, speaking of tomorrow, things change, right? Climate disasters happen, new legislation is passed, things happen. The top nonprofits for an issue today might not be the most effective nonprofits tomorrow. The fund strategy is really cool because it lets us be agile. It lets us make changes, add new programs, adjust the allocation, and give our donors confidence that every time they give, it's going to the best place at that time. We're currently operating a bunch of evergreen funds, which are aligned roughly with the UN 17 Sustainable Development Goals and cover roughly 17 major metro regions across the United States today. And we'll be launching our first custom fund with 361 going forward. So whatever the 361 community decides they want to focus on for this flagship fund is the cause that we'll be applying our analysis engine towards and creating a fund for.
Can I make a comment there, Shub?
Please.
Rob, I give you credit for like pick a lane, let's go at something when we were at the London conference, if you remember. So the question is, we have so many causes which you're going to come on to now. But I think and if we don't get the one, your favorite one or my favorite one, there's always next quarter or the next, but let's just start with something that's concrete and make some, that's where it's coming from.
That's right. Actually, when we were talking about this, Rob, we talked about how passionate you were for just pick something and get started and get behind it.
Yeah, I think that's a good approach.
Cool. Any questions so far on our methodology or what we're about and what we're doing here? Our next step would be to talk about the specific timeline, but I'm happy to answer any questions right now.
Just maybe a general question. Is it possible to get the presentation, and would that also be okay to share maybe with a couple of people who may be interested?
Absolutely.
The one that has an ocean recovery and like the plastic cause, or like a couple of others that actually like a technology for nonprofits.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. We can make this presentation available for you after the call. Okay, cool. So let's get into the plan now. Basically, for the first half of October, our goal is to survey members of this community about which causes that you're interested in and identify what our flagship fund is going to be. In the second half of this month, going into the middle of next month, Srikar and I and our team will be analyzing that cause, researching nonprofits, and designing our flagship fund strategy. At this point, we'd also like to strategically involve 361 members who are willing to help here. This would be people who either have relationships with nonprofits in the space, people who have investments in companies that are roughly affiliated with that cause, or just people who are really passionate about this and want to help out. Also in this period, we will be establishing relationships with these nonprofits, basically establishing a more robust data pipeline so that we can get more information than this what's publicly available on their tax forms. Then from mid next month, November, towards the end of month, we would be launching our fund internally to the larger 361 community. We would host a couple events introducing the fund and opportunities to support the nonprofits more directly. And we would also begin introducing people to for-profit organizations that are operating in the same space. The goal is people care about these issues, and there's multiple avenues to come in and get involved. Obviously, there's the charitable angle, there's a for-profit angle, there are strategic partnerships to be had across the entire space. Whatever channel speaks to you the most, that's how you can enter and begin kind of engaging with the issue. That's fine. From the 28th up to the 3rd of December, that week would be really great if our community could rally behind the fund and begin promoting it to their own networks. We're basically going to lead a big push going to the holidays leading up to Giving Tuesday, which is the largest philanthropic focus day here in the US. It's the first Tuesday after Thanksgiving. Around this time also will be really exciting because that's when our first impact reports are going to be released. So the people who got involved earlier on will start seeing exactly where their money went, who had helped, what our plan is to optimize people's impact going forward. It's a cool time. You get a lot of really nice reports on, like case studies of people who were benefited. You can talk to people from the nonprofits and they can discuss the strategy for allocating the funds. It's exciting stuff. Then on the 3rd of December is Giving Tuesday. That's the big day. Focus is going to be on raising as many funds as we can. And then beyond that, We're going to continue to manage this fund strategy, grow it over time, add more for-profit and strategic partnership opportunities. We'll publish more impact reports and case studies. And then we would also look to expand our coverage by launching new funds and engaging more slices of this 361 community. Pretty simple. That's our roadmap for the next basically 2 months leading up to the end of the year. On this call specifically, our next steps are very straightforward. We'd just like to talk to you, understand, what are your philanthropic goals? What do you think about this plan? And then encourage everybody, if you have not already, to please complete the survey. This will help us make a more informed decision about our first cause. And there's a link to our survey below. I'll also, we can send up a follow-up email after this. And with that, does anybody have any questions? Would anybody like to take a stab at this question? What are our philanthropic goals here in this room?
Hi, Shubhankar. This is Amy Short. I jumped in a little bit late. Two questions. Can you put the link in the chat so that it's clickable for those of us on the call and we can just jump onto that? I'm not able to copy it off of the Zoom screen share. And two, are you running this through like a fiscally sponsored program? What's the structure of how are you receiving the funds? It looks like we're looking for philanthropic donations or transfers from DAFs. Am I getting that right? And is it going through an FSP or some other vehicle? Thanks.
There we go. Oh, Srikar and I just sent the link in the chat.
Great.
Yeah, so the vehicle is pretty straightforward. ImpactLabs.org is a registered 501c3 nonprofit organization.
Yeah.
Any donations made to us are immediately tax deductible, and then we issue the grants to other nonprofits going from there.
Okay. Yep. So it's not exactly a fund then.
It's not a fund in the way that I guess you're familiar talking about it with for-profit investments, but it is a fund in the sense of multiple. There are multiple component nonprofits involved in each fund, organized around a cause with an allocation. Your donations will be split up across every constituent nonprofit in the fund.
How's it a fund?
I'm sorry?
I guess I'm missing how it's a fund, but it sounds like a 501c3 is receiving donations and then reallocating those donations through grants to identified charitable causes that have been identified by the collective, which donated the money in the first place.
Yeah, the fund is the product that's being subscribed to. We call impact funds are curated collections of nonprofit programs with an allocation strategy, so a percentage of each nonprofit. So when your donation goes towards an impact fund, it's then split up and allocated to the nonprofits. So it's like what a for-profit fund would be with your allocation structure. It's just for nonprofit programs.
But it's a donation to the nonprofit programs, not an impact investment in the nonprofit programs.
Yes.
Because both are possible. Okay,
that is correct. It's a philanthropic fund, so it is a charitable donation. There will be opportunities for for-profit investment.
Yeah.
But the chief focus for this is philanthropic, yes.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Anybody else?
I saw the survey. Do you need to be like a 361 member to complete that survey?
No, you don't. Anybody can fill it out.
Okay. So will there be like actually I was going to say, so what's the next step? Like next step, I guess, is to fill the survey, but also more concretely, for example, will there be like meetings? I guess there will be like the identification of that one goal. Maybe, as I said, I'll talk to a couple of people and, kind of see their reaction, and I'll forward maybe some of their material to you to see your interest and your reaction. Does that sound, I don't know, okay? Or
Absolutely. That's exactly what we're looking for here. The survey is the first goal, obviously, but if anybody here is interested or involved in philanthropic causes, you can reach out to us directly, or catch us in any of the meetings that we'll be attending, and
I
we can.
think I have your email from Mark. I think,
I was
but
CC'd on the survey email that was sent out yesterday, so you could have it.
yes, yes, okay. Yeah.
So how do you choose which institutions or businesses get the donations? How do you pick the
We have an
beneficiaries?
analysis model that takes in basically it parses our data set. It slices up organizations based on those four key metrics that we were talking about. I don't know if you were there on the slide when we talked about it, but we have four key scoring metrics, which are breadth of impact, depth of impact, evidence of impact, and timeline to impact. And then when we're designing our fund strategy, what we do is we take a look at all of the relevant outcomes of that cause. For example, for our causes that target housing or homelessness, we look at number of nights spent homeless, or the outcomes associated with issuing grants so that people are able to pay their utility bills, or all the constituent outcomes associated with that cause, and we assign impact weights to them, or scores, which basically determine how significant that cause or that outcome is relative to others. And we build an impact model accordingly. And then we apply that model to our data set, and we see who are the nonprofits that are putting out outcomes at a cost-effective rate that basically fit what we're looking to accomplish. And we assign those outcome weights based on research. So we're looking at academic research, which determines whether or not certain interventions are more effective than others, or how significant certain outcomes are in the grand scheme of the issue. And we basically work through our strategy that way.
U.S. only, or you international?
At this moment, our focus is domestic. We can support international donations, but our focus is domestic.
And what about causes? Is that also only for like US-based causes, or interest, or can you do, for example, a partnership with a global company, or I don't know, nonprofit?
We are set up to do partnerships with global companies, so we could do that if that's what the cause of the community decides on. We could support that. At this point, we've been focusing on the US specifically because we've been rolling out funds in the 17 major US metro regions. But we could do international as well.
Okay.
Okay. Well,
are you on LinkedIn? Can I look you up on LinkedIn and connect via that way?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. All right. I'll send you an invite through there.
Lovely. And then after this email, I'll also be sharing a follow-up, probably through Mark, with a link to this presentation that I just shared. Feel free to share this with anybody else who you think may be interested. What's going to happen next is Srikar and I are going to be at the New York conference. If any of you are going there, we'll see you there. Otherwise, over the next couple of weeks, we'll decide what our flagship fund is going to be for 361. We'll have another meeting, probably in a similar format, over Zoom, to announce that. And if people are interested in supporting that and getting involved in that in any way, obviously you can join those. On top of that, I believe Mark and I are discussing relaunching 361's weekly philanthropy specific meetings, possibly on Thursdays at a certain time. I know those were done in the past. Maybe we can bring those back, in which case it could be an interesting educational opportunity. The format would be more impact labs would talk about different causes around the world that are of interest to the community. We can give kind of a contextual analysis of what's going on, who are the key players, why is the issue as severe as it is, and what are the easiest ways to get involved and support those causes going forward. So not so much fund specific, more educational and call to action stuff. So if that's something you all are interested in, hey
are you able to, we're going to close up this room, and if you could actually come back, we'll do a quick debrief before we start our briefing. Is that okay? Sorry to cut you so short.
Yeah, no problem.
It's catalyzed what we're about to do.